Hello everyone. We have a great interview today with Rome Gregorio. He's a former vice chairman of the Corpus Christi Parks and Recreation Department, a former president of the Northwest Business Association. He's also been a professional fisherman and guide. He was on the FLW Redfish Tour with national sponsorship with Kellogg Cereal and Ranger Boats. He's also a local real estate investor. He's been doing that since 2002. He is the principal at the Gregorio Group, which is a business and consulting motivational speaking group. He's been doing that since 2003. Also is the founder of Bay Area Athletic Club, a full-service multi-purpose athletic club with over 20,000 square feet, and is the founder of Camille's Hand-Dipped Ice Cream, the first national franchise of hand-dipped ice cream bars in the United States. Rome, thank you so much for joining us. I'm really excited about this interview. Let's go ahead and get started. Tell us about serial entrepreneurship and why you find it so attractive.
Okay. First of all, I can't really say that I knew what serial entrepreneurship was until I was actually called one. And then you sort of take offense to it at first because it sounds violent. And I guess it has some truth to it because a serial entrepreneur has a mindset of being a businessman and instead of a business owner. And I think that's the distinguishable difference between a young businessman and a person who's done business in a number of different categories. Because a businessman wants to displace his current role as an employee for a company and wants to set his own standards, set his own timetables, set his own agendas, and those sort of things. And it's an inspiration, or it's something to aspire to. And so a young businessman says, okay, I'm pretty much tired of the way things are going. I want to do this on my own. I want to be my own boss and launch my own business. A serial entrepreneur is a person that sees that business is his work, is the category of effort that needs to be made in a number of different environments. And let me explain what that means. It means that in the course of doing business, you realize that there are a variety of revenue streams that can be generated, and those revenue streams can each be a business. Whereas if you're a business owner of a department store, you would have different departments that generate revenues. You'd have the women's shoes department, you'd have the luggage department, you'd have the fine china department, you'd have men's clothing and such, and each one of those things are tracked and traced for its productivity, and you determine how much revenues are being pulled out of that, and you make decisions based on where the ebbs and flows are of those departments. A serial entrepreneur looks at every business as a revenue stream, as a department, as a category of business, whereas it's a mindset of business, I should say, much like that of, if ice cream sales are up, that might mean that coffee sales are down. If coffee sales are up, might mean that ice cream sales are down. So why not own a coffee store and an ice cream store so that you have something that balances or equalizes itself? And so the serial entrepreneur looks at business a different way. He looks at it with an appetite to say, hey, maybe I should own a category of businesses that are so diversified that I might be able to endure or weather the storms of life as different ebbs and flows or seasons come and go.
Great, good stuff. Now, do you find it more the more you go through the process of conceptualizing a new business and actually seeing it through, the better the resulting outcome of the business?
The more you spend time conceptualizing, I believe that business starts with a burden. A burden elicits a passion. That passion turns into a vision. And so if you have a burden that elicits into a passion, and that passion becomes a vision, your vision becomes something that you spend the majority of your time occupying, because you want to refine it, you want to develop it, you want to take your idea for your business and see who it impacts. Personally, I look at business. I look at conceptual stages of businesses as to how does it benefit me. I gotta be real honest with you. It's got to make sense for me to want to spend time doing it. Is it something that's going to take me away from my family? Is it something that's going to promote family activity? Is it something that's going to cause me to travel, to stay at home, what have you? And so the whole motivation or the source of a business stems from the burdens that I might have for it. If I can see that a business is going to clearly meet the needs of a lot of people, I might get really excited about it, and I might be willing to give up some of my own personal time to meet the needs of others. If it's going to promote or provide jobs, if it's going to if it's going to invoke a challenge or something new that maybe I haven't been involved in the past. I might be even more excited to delve into that because it'll help me to grow, and I'm always about trying to improve and grow and try new things. I think that's the spirit of a real entrepreneur, is that you're never really satisfied with what's on your plate today. You're consuming just like everybody else, but all the while you're thinking about what you can create and do next. I think a real entrepreneur looks at or enjoys the pleasure of developing, designing, building, constructing something that doesn't currently exist. So in its conceptual stage, there's a lot of excitement at that level, because you're asking the question of what if, and if it doesn't exist today, it doesn't mean that it shouldn't be done. It just might mean that you haven't done it yet.
Now, so do you find that the more you do it, the more businesses you start, the better you get at it?
I got to think the answer to that is yes. And you take enough swings at a ball, you're going to hit it once in a while, and that's real encouraging. I think we definitely become masters of our craft, and then the more time you spend in doing it. I think equally as important as to trying and discovering is also to look upon the failures and the things that you hadn't quite seen take off or reach the levels that you want, to realize that, hey, there is something about that experience that I'm going to take into my next endeavor, and I'm going to be able to be more successful as a result of it.
Great. That's exactly what I was believing you were going to say. Now, what would you say to the naysayers who propose that it's too hard to manage and foster more than one business at a time?
That's a good point, because we are time-starved Americans. I mean, really, I don't think I've run into a handful of people in my entire life that said, I just have all the time in the world, I can do anything and everything I want to. If you need me, just call upon me. Most everybody I run into is, I barely have enough time to do this, I wasn't able to get to that, I wasn't able to do those sort of things. And so you look at that and recognize that there's an inherent challenge that we have, because we are busy people. If we're busy people, then the inherent challenge of growing and launching new businesses and operating multiple businesses at the same time is such that we have to recognize what we're not capable of doing. I think a real leader steps out and says, here's what I'm not good at. Here's where I must surround myself with somebody or people that can handle these areas of my life, because I'm not good at it, or I don't have enough time to do it, and so on and so forth. So as a leader of businesses, I think what happens is that we must recognize the fact that we are responsible to lead. We're responsible to feed the needs of those people in our organization. We're responsible for recognizing where our weaknesses are, where we might fail, and hire out to those sources. We must only do what we can do and let everybody else do what they can. And I think that's how I think that's how any organization of any substantial size can operate. I mean, how does government work? There's so many different facets to it. How do multi-million-dollar organizations work? How do communities and groups work, where there are multiple needs? It's not one person doing anything and everything necessary to keep the process going. It's one person doing everything that he or she can and letting everybody else do theirs. And so it was never meant to be accomplished alone. I think if there's anything I would say to that is that once I recognized the fact that I can't do this alone, wasn't supposed to be doing it alone, and I'm not alone, I was able to accomplish a whole lot more.
Good stuff. Very good. Now, tell us some more about your more current endeavors, namely Camille's Hand-Dipped Ice Cream.
Okay. That's a real exciting project that we have right now. We have a big vision for Camille's Hand-Dipped Ice Cream. It is currently the first hand-dipped ice cream franchise in the entire United States. It's a very unique approach to an old-fashioned ice cream bar. Essentially, it's something that's dated back over 50 years ago. Probably the State Fair of Texas had been a place where many people had found the simplicity of a vanilla ice cream bar on a stick that's dipped in hot chocolate and then dressed with a topping, such as peanuts or M&Ms or Oreos or those sort of things. It's a very simple product, but I'll tell you this, it's a product that hasn't been found in a franchise or fashion-forward environment until we started Camille's. Camille's Hand-Dipped Ice Cream is, as I mentioned, the first franchise of its kind And our ambition and goal is to take the model that we've created here in Corpus Christi and sell them throughout the nation. We're currently registered in the state of Texas and in Florida and soon to be California. And we have the ambition of having 100 franchises in the next 3 years. And we want to be a competitive force in the ice cream industry and certainly look upon successful franchises like, let's say, Starbucks and Subway, and want to mimic the same success that they've been able to experience.
Now, what do you want the customer to feel when they come into a Camille's hand-dipped ice cream store? What does that look like to you?
Okay, that's a great question, because this dates back to the conceptual stage of what we were doing when we put this thing together. We simply asked the question of ourselves as a team, what the reason a person would eat ice cream is. We basically sat around in a boardroom and said, hey, why do people eat ice cream? And we came up with two conclusions. We came up with one occasion people eat ice cream is because they might be down and out, they might be depressed, their boyfriend, girlfriend might have just left them, they might have just gotten some bad news, a traffic ticket, or what have you. And so a friend comes alongside them and says, hey, let's go grab some ice cream and talk about it. It served a purpose. It was a pick-me-up. And so that person wanted to be happy from the situation they were in. And the second reason we figured that people wanted to eat ice cream was to actually celebrate an occasion. You know, it might be a birthday party, good grades on your report card. A friend comes into town, and so you talk it over some ice cream. And again, the occasion was a happy or a joyous one. And so in both instances, we recognize the fact that people had the desire or wanted to be happy. And so when designing Camille's hand-up ice cream, we wanted the environment to elicit a very happy, positive feeling, and we wanted it to be very emotional. And so we used colors, we used photographs, we used Kodak moments, if you will, to build an environment or a culture that would be rich in community, rich in family, very positive. We actually were very fashion-forward in our thinking. We wanted to use flat-screen TVs and Wi-Fi, so social media and Facebook and everything that people do on a regular basis could be accomplished at a Camille's, and that's something that you just don't find in an ice cream shop or an ice cream parlor. You'd have to go to a Starbucks or something like that to find that same level of community and purpose. And that's what we wanted to. That's the experience we wanted to build. We wanted to be all about relationships. We wanted our customers to know that our ice cream is pretty good, but the relationships that you can develop within a Camille's hand-up ice cream would definitely promote that quality of life.
Really good, very nice. Now, what makes the franchise model so important? Why not just have a single entity own all the stores?
That's a good question. One, we recognize that we were going to create a model that people would want to have. We wanted to design something that would be current. And what I mean by that is we wanted it to be fashionable. We wanted the colors and the look and the appeal, the logo, everything. We wanted to be attractive. Secondly, we felt like we would be in great demand because we recognized that the economic times were really putting a strain on people financially. People were punching the clock all year, all around the country, and at the same time, those people who were losing their jobs and fearful of job loss were in a position to where they were recognizing that they may not have been as indisposable to their companies as possible. And so the burden came from, we had a great burden for that. We said, let's create jobs, let's create companies, let's create opportunities for people to be business owners and really contribute to the economy. Because I believe that in order to really grow the economy, you have to create business. 95% or better of our economy is driven by small businesses. And so we didn't want to just create jobs, we want to create businesses so people could become business owners, and we knew that if they did, then they'd create jobs. And so we wanted to be an economic stimulus in our own right. We wanted to develop something that would give people an opportunity to get away from the mundane and get away from the fear of losing their own job by creating their own destiny and having an opportunity to be their own business.
That's a great answer, and it's a great idea behind the franchise model, and so commend you on that. It's really cool.
Thank you.
So where do you see Camille's ice cream in the long term, over 5 to 10 years?
Wow, that's a great question. We see us as being a very impactful organization. We see us being a very, I'm going to use the term, infectious organization. We know that we can reach certain demographics. You can reach couples, families. You can reach college students. We know that you can reach different demographics of people, and we know that the kind of person that appreciates this sort of model oftentimes stems from our college students. We know that college students are viral marketers, and we know that there's been some other companies that are out there that were driven to a great deal of success because college students wrapped their arms around that business model and promoted it, because college students go to college, they get an education, and then they go off to get jobs and seek demographics that have a great quality of life. And we have a passion for Corpus Christi, and so we want to enhance the quality of life here. And so we took this model and believe that it can be something that is found in every major shopping center in America. And we know that if we can reach the college students and we can reach the families and we can be a positive influence in their lives, that they would go out to different parts of the country and just expect there, or demand there, hopefully, for there to be a Camille's Hand Dip ice cream to be around every corner, much like you find other companies.
Or start their own.
That's definitely a good idea.
Yeah. Very good. And now, what do you think the biggest challenge is going to be over that same time frame?
Biggest challenges that we have is, in any organizational growth, the wheels come off, because you can grow too fast and be ill-equipped for the challenge. In other words, you have to staff it. You have to be 6 months ahead of schedule even before you can afford it, because to be 6 months behind leads to the demise of an organization. And so you have to have infrastructure, you have to have the right people, you have to have the marketing in place, you have to have a lot of things that cause people and organizations to fall apart, because you're cutting checks you can't cover. You're making statements and casting vision in areas that can't qualify for a store to be there yet. So you're really stepping out ahead, and I think that takes a whole lot of faith. And so if there's a challenge, it's to recognize that you're never going to have the resources to accomplish what's in front of you today, because your goals and your vision for your company should be much larger than what your capacity is today. If not, you're really not going to grow a whole lot. And I think that's what shuns a lot of growth, is that people say, well, I'll only do what I can afford to do today. Really, my statement is, you really can't afford not to do the things that you need to be doing if you're an organizational that's all about growth. And growth to me means being infectious, means being viral, means gaining placement, means being aggressive. I'll tell you the truth, I don't play defense very well. I'm all about offense. And I think that we need to take our message, if we believe in it, we have a vision, you have the faith that God's in it, it's going to be an amazing outcome. And so that's what I think.
I understand. Now, what message do you have for the aspiring serial entrepreneur?
The message that I would have for an aspiring serial entrepreneur. I have a friend named Danny who at one time told me that he's actually a minister. He has a doctorate or PhD in the ministry. And he tells me that when a person comes to him and says, Rome, when people come to me and say, I'm thinking about going into the ministry, he says to me that his first response is he always tries to talk a person out of it. And I said, well, Danny, that really doesn't sound very godly. That almost doesn't, it certainly doesn't sound very spiritual. What do you mean? You're telling people not to go into the ministry? You're trying to talk them out of it? He goes, absolutely. He says, because if I can, then it really wasn't their conviction. So if I can talk you out of being an entrepreneur, if I can talk you out of becoming a serial entrepreneur, and you choose to walk away from it, then it really wasn't your conviction. Because let me tell you something, it's not for everybody. It's for the few people who are choosing to stick their neck out and not afraid to get it cut off, and a few people who are willing to rebound off of their failures, and a few people who are willing to get up, dust themselves on, and press on towards the goal of which they originally had. It's for a few people who will choose to put themselves in the most difficult situations, the most compromising opportunities, and still stand firm in their belief, in their faith, in their commitment to what their cause is all about. And so if I were to talk to an aspiring serial entrepreneur, I would try to do everything I can to talk them out of it, because if I am successful, then I am sparing themselves and a whole lot of other people of a great amount of grief, because the failure rate for businesses is there. I don't believe that that's something I desire. I don't wish that upon anybody, don't get me wrong, but it's when only 2 out of 10 businesses actually make it past year 3, that there's something about the propensity for a business leader or business owner to move forward and press on after hitting the bumps in the road, because there are going to definitely be bumps in the road. But they must know that there's definitely hope on the other side of that wall of fear, and I would try to talk a person out of it to see where their stamina really is.
Good advice, really good, and I can see where it makes sense, because I know we were talking earlier about the sun stands still principle. Can you talk to us a little bit about that, and how that can encourage a young entrepreneur who's maybe already started a business and is having to fight through some battles?
Yeah, that's a great principle. I'm glad you mentioned that, David. The sun stand still principle is a principle found in the book of Joshua in the Old Testament, where Joshua is a leader of his army, and he's going to meet the call or the rescue of a neighboring city. And in the middle of the battle, he leads his army of great warriors to face the adversary, and begins to win in this battle. And he's slaughtering the enemy, and he's taking ground for his God, for God. And great things are happening. As a result of it, God steps in and brings some assistance in the form of a hailstorm, and starts taking out members of the enemy as well. What Joshua then finds out is that the scale begins to tip in his favor, and he starts seeing a real victory occur in with his army and with God on his side. And so what he does in the middle of the battle is he calls out to God and asks God to make the sun stand still. He says, "Sun, stand still," and God intervenes and grabs hold of the sun and keeps it in place for an entire day. It's the only time in the history of the world that this has ever happened, and it's a recorded event in history that this actually occurred. That the sun stood still for Joshua for a period of at least 24 hours, we know. And what that does is it allows Joshua to pursue the enemy and finish the battle. And there's a very powerful message in this thing, at least as it speaks to my life. It speaks to me in a number of different ways. One, we must be, as leaders, prepared, equipped, and willing to enter into the battle. Secondly, it tells me that we got to have the faith and belief in God to know that He's willing to even hold the sun in places of our lives that really need work. We know that God's willing and able to hold fast the sun in the middle of the sky, so that Joshua can work on this battle that God's got in front of him. And then thirdly, it speaks to me in that Joshua recognized the fact that he would not finish this battle unless God held the sun up, so that he can go pursue the enemy and conquer completely his adversaries. And that's where I think a lot of men struggle, is that we have adversaries in our lives. We have addictions. We have challenges and problems. They come in the form of drugs. They come in the form of alcoholism. They come in the form of broken relationships. And God wants us to be good finishers. And I mentioned this to you earlier, that you cannot be a successful entrepreneur or businessman if you're not a good husband, if you're not a good man, if you're not a good husband, if you're not a good father first. Nothing is independent of one another, and therefore God wants us to be good finishers. And so if there's an area in our lives that need to be addressed, my prayer is that you'd say, God, sun, stand still, so I can go and work on these areas of my life, and that you keep the light on long enough for me to recognize where those problems are.
Good stuff. Now, as you know, Social Bites is really concerned about bringing the message, a positive message for businessmen here in the Corpus Christi and the surrounding area. And so one of the things I like to do is really kind of get some insight and some thoughts on where you see the local business environment here in Corpus Christi and the surrounding areas.
Where I see the local business environment is that I see us as a starving vessel. You know, we have a great appetite in this city, and that appetite is oftentimes influenced by our surrounding cities and the things that we don't have. A lot of times we as a city focus on what we don't have. We compare ourselves to cities like San Antonio, Houston, Dallas, even the Valley, and look at how those cities might have, you know, a greater shopping culture or social culture or nightlife and those sort of things. And we belittle ourselves. And so what happens is I notice that our business community reduces the opinions that they have of themselves, thus reducing the performance of their businesses. So you see, you can't have a poor opinion of yourself. If you told yourself as a young boy, hey, there's no way I could ever run a mile. Well, the reality is that you will actually accomplish that goal if you tell yourself that long enough. You'll accomplish the fact that you can't do something if you tell yourself you can't do something. And so the reality is that our business climate here in Corpus Christi has to stop saying what they can't do and start focusing on what they can do, relish the things that we're good at, and take those qualities and promote that, drive that, market that, make ourselves distinguishably different by being a company of businesses or a collective of businesses that have a greater vision. Rather than focusing on what we don't have, we focus on what we do have and how we can promote and do that even more or to a larger scale. Because I believe that vision elicits passion. And if you can have, as a business owner, vision, you will attract people who have passion. Oftentimes I'm asked, how do I grow an organization, or how do I grow my companies, my businesses? And the way I do that is by keeping the vision of what we will become in front of them. You see, if I focus on the things that we don't have and the things that we're not able to do, we simply become a product of what I talk about. If I talk about the vision of what we will become and the things that we're going to be able to accomplish and the influence and the impact we're going to have, we become a product of what I talk about. And so collectively, we are a city that has a great appetite, and our appetite should be driven by the quality of offerings that we do have. And if I were to challenge us to do something, I would challenge us to go big and to have a vision that goes beyond our four walls as a city. I would challenge us to not only compare ourselves, not compare ourselves with other cities and the things that they have, but compare ourselves to the standards that I believe God calls for us to have, which is to be great, to be amazing, to be extraordinary, to be unique, and not to be a cheap copy of a San Antonio or a cheap copy of a Houston, but to be authentic. And I think what people will find is that they will gravitate to authenticity every single time, because nobody wants to buy the Michael Jordan basketball or jersey that was signed by somebody else. It says Michael Jordan on it, looks like Michael Jordan on it, but it wasn't Michael Jordan's signature.
Right. And
so authenticity in developmental growth and to have the vision to say we're going to be extraordinary because we're Corpus Christi and we deserve to be amazing, that needs to be the vision that we promote and tell the world about.
Awesome news. Now, are there any specific opportunities here in the Coastal Bend that you see on the horizon that an aspiring young entrepreneur could take advantage of?
You know, we have a unique ecosystem here. We have a port, we have a beach, we're a beach town, and there's beach towns are normally associated with high value and the promotion of this destination and resorts. I think we have a great opportunity for resort-like living. We have a great opportunity for resort-like businesses to step up and really fulfill that goal and destiny. You know, you got to look at a small place called Orlando, Florida, that when you trace it back into the days before Walt Disney had this vision of a mouse in a theme park that would be so amazing that, I mean, let's face it, the Magic Kingdom didn't have a board meeting on Friday to see if they're going to be open on Monday. Right. They have unlimited resources because the vision of their founder was such that he wanted that experience to be amazing, and he wanted to be like new every single day. It's one of the reasons that they actually paint the curbs of their streets in the Magic Kingdom every single night, because Walt Disney had this vision that their company, their theme park should look new every single day. So they paint the curbs. I don't know if you knew that or not. And so that takes vision. that takes commitment. And so when you have a vision that big, the commitment follows. And so you got to think, that big. And so there's great opportunities for a Walt Disney-like experience here in Corpus Christi. And as I mentioned, Orlando, Florida, if you look at what Orlando, Florida is, one, they don't have any beaches. It's right smack in the middle of Florida. They don't have the waterways. They don't have the sand. They don't have that sort of culture. Orlando, Florida was simply farmland. That a man came one day and said, hey, I have this concept for a mouse. I drew it on a napkin. Here it is. Let's make the most amazing theme park the world has ever seen right here. And so it's a great example for me and for others to see that with just a matter of vision, you can take a mouse on a napkin and change the whole culture of a city. And so if Corpus Christi has a destiny, it is that Corpus Christi must become a destination for people to come and explode with continuing vision. And that's where the opportunity is, for us to be a resort-like community that elicits passion, that people from all around the globe would come and want to spend time frequenting and spending money in and living and developing and growing. I think that's where the growth opportunity is.
I love that saying. Its destiny is that it will become a destination.
Yes.
Very good. Now, on a more personal note, Rome, can you tell us some of your professional goals, both in the short and long term?
My professional goals, I'm all about goals. I'm all about dreams and visions and those sort of things. I think my short-term goal right now is to see that Camille's Hand Dip Ice Cream is a 100-unit franchise, particularly in the state of Texas, because Texas is a big place, and I believe that this franchise has the capacity of being its own homegrown, business concept. I really want people, especially in the city of Corpus Christi, to wrap their arms around this model, because it was started here in Corpus Christi, and I'm a veteran resident of Corpus Christi, and so I want us to have that impact for our city, and I believe that it can be done right here. I have no plans to go anywhere. I think long-term goals, I'd like to see the franchise take an identity where we become the number one franchise in the United States. I believe that we have the capacity to take this business model internationally to places like Australia, to Spain, Mexico, Canada. Matter of fact, we even have some interest today in Canada for potential candidates or for franchises. And I think that this is a global opportunity that we have, because not that our product is just that much better than everybody else. You have to hear my heart in this. The product is pretty good, but the concept for business is extraordinary. We've developed something that can sustain, and not only sustain, but thrive under today's economic conditions, because the way we designed the model, we wanted to make it affordable. We wanted to make it simple. We wanted to make it something where every person in America could see themselves operating. Every mom and pop with any kind of entrepreneurial spirit at all can see themselves operating one of these things and owning one, thus changing the direction and of their destiny or their financial future, forever. And so we do have global ambitions. I'm not afraid to say that this is something that I believe will be found in many different places, even outside the United States.
It's a beautiful long-term goal, I think, to really look at the global platform for it. In terms of media, what do you listen to, read, or view on a regular basis for ideas, insight, and inspiration?
Wow, those are great questions. I'm a huge advocate for podcasts, audiobooks. I spend so much time on the road and traveling that although I wish I had more time to spend traditionally reading a book in a quiet corner, I just don't get a lot of quiet moments, to be real honest with you. And so I have to carry my iPod around. I buy audiobooks and things. People I like to listen to are people like Andy Stanley. I listen to different great pastors and leaders that particularly have inspirational messages relating to business or economics. Our own pastor here, Bill Cornelius, has been a major influence in my life and starting my first business back in 1999. And so people like that, Steve Farrar, there's a book out there called Battle Ready. Podcast from David Crank, Pastor David Crank. He's a pastor, I believe, in St. Louis. And Stephen Furtick, He's a great inspirational leader. Also, he wrote the book "Sun Stand Still." Just some amazing leaders. I'm constantly filling my mind, filling my ears, filling my eyes with the Word of God. I'm constantly spending time in the Bible because I believe that God gives us all these good things, and that if you pray for wisdom, He'll give it to you. And I'm a person that's certainly not. I wouldn't compare myself with being very brilliant or very smart to any likes, but I am obedient. I am faithful. I am committed. And I believe that the Word of God is the higher ethics that people seek. It's a higher authority. And so rather than read, 7 habits of highly successful people, I'd rather read why those people are successful, because somebody gave them those habits. And that's where it comes from. I believe it comes from the Word of God. And so that's where I'm constantly filling my mind, and my vehicle and my thoughts generally are driven from there.
Wise words. And lastly, what are your passions? What do you love to do in your free time?
Wow, I'm a major motorhead. I mean, I love riding my motorcycle. I'm a Harley Davidson guy, and I shouldn't say I'm a Harley Davidson guy. I'm a motorcycle guy. I have a Harley Davidson, and that's probably my greatest passion. Is that I love to ride on the open road. I love to dump my mind on the road. And what I mean by that is it's amazingly enough, it's my quiet time. It's where I get to spend time with me and me alone, and to recharge, to refuel. I love the adventure. I love the thrill. I love I'm not a thrill seeker by any means. I wouldn't jump off and do foolish things. They're calculated, but there is a sense of thrill or danger in riding a motorcycle. Certainly not for everybody, but I enjoy it. It gives me. I find myself there, and I really find that I can go explore back roads and places that I wouldn't otherwise recognize from my bike, that you certainly don't do from the comfort of an air-conditioned car or vehicle. So I'm passionate about that. I'm passionate about my family. I'm a huge family guy. I've been the coach of my kids' soccer teams ever since they were small to being teenagers. I'm a huge family man. There's nothing more that I enjoy than having lunch with my wife, and as an entrepreneur, I can pretty much do that every day of the week, and it's something I'm proud of. I don't mind taking advantage of the liberties that being an entrepreneur provides, because that means I get to spend more time with my wife, and which I'm passionate about. I love my wife. We've been married for nearly 18 years next month, and it just feels like yesterday that we had met each other. I'm so excited about her, that she's the love of my life, and so that's where I find my solace. I find my strength from my family. I find peace and knowledge and wisdom from God. I'm an ambitious server. I spend time in the church. I serve regularly. I enjoy that environment. I really believe that you have two families that you do life with. You have your family of origin, and that's the people that you were born with: your mom, your dad, your kids, your wife, your spouse. And then you also have your family of choice, the people who you actually do life with. And it's unfortunate, but some people find that their families of origin will leave them. And that happens every single day. But the family of choice is who you choose to spend time with, who you choose to do life with. And those are the people that help shape you, and whom you help shape to do life with and go through the struggles and celebrate victories and those sort of things. And I'm a passionate person when it comes to spending time with people that I enjoy and God puts in front of me.
Rome, it has been an honor and a privilege. You're an inspiration. Thank you for the time, and God bless you.
Well, thank you, David. I enjoyed the opportunity to share, and it was really meaningful for me. God bless you.
You've been listening to Rome Gregorio of Camille's Ice Cream, the first national franchise of hand-dipped ice cream bars in the United States. This episode of Social Bites Business Edition brought to you by the Bada Bling Room at OTB, bringing the bling with rhinestone, shirts, flip-flops, belts, and jewelry. Camille's Ice Cream, dunk, dress, devour. HILDA LAMAS, a soulful blend of blues, rock, and R&B. Eternal Flame Memorials, keeping the memory of your loved one burning bright. Neovia Solutions, digital innovations for business. Outside the Box, a marketing and promotional specialty company. Products, apparel, and graphic design for your business or organization. Precise Bookkeeping Services. When you expect more, think Precise. Santa Fe Healthcare, home health services for the Coastal Blend, keeping families together. Trevino & Sons Tree Service. Let us take care of your tree and lawn needs so you can relax. And a special thanks to associate producer Imagine Support Services, providing training, advocacy, and support for your loved one with special needs. Visit them at www.imaginesupports.com or call 361-851-0311 or toll free 1-877-851-0311. For advertising and program opportunities, call 361-232-5204. Visit us at www.socialbytescc.com or email sales@socialbytescc.com. I'm David Flotis. This has been Social Bytes Business Edition, Corpus Christi's cutting-edge audio magazine. I invite you to like us on Facebook, forward our text message, and please press that share button. Remember, you are the network.